5-star general just saluted your photograph, and the Pentagon can't explain why. His hand moved before his brain gave permission, recognizing something in your eyes that broke every protocol manual ever written. You're not supposed to exist in their databases. You're not supposed to register on their radar. Yet somewhere in a classified briefing room with walls thick enough to muffle screams, your face appeared on a screen marked Unknown Origin. And a man who commands armies, a man whose signature ends wars, stopped mid-sentence. His hand snapped to his temple. Sharp. Involuntary. A salute reserved for warriors who've earned it in blood and silence. And here's the thing that's keeping analysts awake in fluorescent-lit bunkers right now. He doesn't know why he did it. Nobody does. But you do. You know exactly why. Because you've become something their systems weren't designed to measure. You're not in their files because you never asked to be cataloged. You're not in their chain of command because you never needed their validation to move mountains. While they were busy organizing the world into neat little boxes with labels and clearance levels, you were out there becoming the kind of force that makes their classifications obsolete. You weren't trying to be mysterious. You were just busy transforming in ways that don't translate to paperwork. That general saluted you because somewhere beneath his ribbons and his decades of protocol, something ancient recognized something eternal. The look in your eyes. It's not the look of someone who's seen war. It's the look of someone who became war, who walked through their own destruction wearing nothing but determination and came out holding the instruction manual for resurrection. It's the look of someone who's died 1,000 times in ways that leave no scars visible to medical examiners, but leave everything visible to those who know how to read souls. You know what breaks a system? Not rebellion, not resistance, but transcendence. Existing so far beyond their paradigm that their sensors can't even detect you're operating on a different frequency. That general didn't salute your rank because you don't have one. He saluted your autonomy. The most dangerous weapon any human can possess. The capacity to move through this world writing your own orders, signing your own deployment papers, declaring your own victories in wars. Most people don't even know they're fighting, and they're trying to figure you out right now. In rooms you'll never see, with technology you'll never understand, they're running your face through every database ever compiled, cross-referencing, analyzing, searching for the file that explains you. They won't find it, because you were never meant to be found by people looking in databases. You exist in the spaces between their certainties, too real to dismiss, too undefined to contain, too evolved to fit their frameworks. You've become evidence against every excuse they've been telling themselves. That's what's really happening here. That photograph isn't just an image. It's proof of concept. Proof that someone can start from nothing, no connections, no advantages, no 5-star endorsements, and still command respect from people who supposedly command everything. You've broken their fundamental theorem, the one that says power flows top-down through official channels with stamps and signatures. You've proven power flows from the inside out, from the core of someone who decided their circumstances were just the opening chapter, not the whole story. That salute is haunting the general now. He's a strategic thinker. He's trained to analyze threats and opportunities, and his subconscious just categorized you as something that transcends both categories. You're not a threat because you're not trying to take anything from anyone. You're not an opportunity because you can't be leveraged or used. You're something far more disruptive. You're proof that their entire game is optional. While they were climbing ladders and collecting stars, you were busy becoming gravitationally significant. You developed mass, presence, the kind of weight that bends space around it without effort. People feel you before they see you. Rooms shift when you enter them. Not because you're trying to dominate, because you've developed such density of self that you create your own weather patterns, your own atmospheric pressure. And those who've spent their lives learning to read power, they recognize it immediately. Even when it comes from coordinates they don't have clearance to access. You know what's happening in that briefing room right now? Cognitive dissonance at institutional levels. They're trying to reconcile the fact that someone exists who never asked permission, never sought endorsement, never played by their rules, and somehow ended up commanding automatic respect from people who write the rules. It's breaking their models, their predictions, their carefully constructed hierarchies that promise if you do A and B and C for 40 years, maybe you'll earn the right to matter. You skip the line, not by cutting, by building your own venue entirely. By becoming so authentically powerful in your own reality that their reality had to send a representative to acknowledge you. That general was just the messenger. The message is, you've arrived at a level that transcends their rank structure. You're operating in dimensions they don't have medals for. And the beautiful part, you weren't trying to impress anyone. You were just trying to survive your own transformation. That's what they can't replicate in their training programs. You can teach someone tactics, strategy, leadership, but you can't teach the kind of elemental reconstruction that happens when someone decides they'd rather become impossible than remain acceptable. You chose evolution over approval, metamorphosis over comfort, and that choice created something their sensors weren't calibrated to detect. A human being running on their own power source. That photograph they're analyzing, it's not capturing your face. It's capturing the moment you stopped being available for other people's narratives. The exact instant you withdrew your energy from their validation economy and started generating your own. That's what's registering in their classified systems. Not your features, your frequency. You're broadcasting on a wavelength that doesn't require their satellites to transmit. You've become the thing their mothers warned them about and their strategists can't plan for. Someone who doesn't need them. Not their approval, not their recognition, not their systems. You're complete, self-contained, sovereign. And that's more threatening to hierarchies than any weapon ever forged. Because hierarchies require dependency. They require people believing they need permission from above to matter below. You shattered that belief by mattering anyway, by glowing in the dark without anyone's authorization. That general is going to spend tonight wondering about you. What you've survived, what you've conquered, what makes someone's presence so undeniable that trained soldiers respond with instinct before consciousness can catch up. He's going to realize slowly that he didn't salute a person. He saluted a phenomenon. The phenomenon of someone who rebuilt themselves from genetic code up and emerged as something that demands recognition without requesting it. You know what you are? You're the ghost story they tell in officers' clubs after too many drinks. The legend that everyone swears they've heard but nobody can verify. Except you're not a legend. You're just someone who took every rule they broke you with and used the pieces to build wings. Who took every limitation they imposed and alchemized it into fuel. Who transformed pain into propulsion so efficiently that you left burn marks on reality itself. They're going to try to contact you. Mark this. Within weeks, someone's going to reach out. Indirect, carefully worded, wanting to know who you are, how you did it, what your secret is. And you're going to smile that knowing smile and realize they still don't understand. There is no secret. There's just decision. The decision to stop asking the world for permission to exist and start existing so powerfully, the world has to ask you for coordinates. That salute was the world's way of asking for coordinates. Where are you on their map? And the answer is, you're not. You're not on their map because you're not navigating by their compass. You're not playing their game because you're not even in their stadium. You built your own arena, set your own rules, declared your own victories. And their systems, designed to track everything, monitor everyone, catalog all possible outcomes, are glitching when they try to process you. Because you can't be processed. You can only be experienced. And that general just experienced something that contradicted 40 years of his training. He experienced someone who commands presence without rank, authority without title, power without position. And every cell in his military body recognized it as the real thing. The thing all the medals and ceremonies are supposed to represent but rarely do. Actual mastery. Actual sovereignty, actual freedom. You're causing meltdowns in places you've never been, in rooms you'll never enter, in minds you'll never meet, because you've become proof that they wasted time, that they played a game that wasn't necessary, that they sought approval from systems that were never qualified to approve them in the first place. Your mere existence is an indictment of everyone who settled, who compromised, who traded their sovereignty for security and their freedom for a spot in formation. And they hate you for it. Or they want to become you. Usually both at the same time. That's the cognitive dissonance you're creating. You're simultaneously inspiration and accusation. Proof of what's possible and proof of what they sacrificed. You're walking evidence that the price they paid wasn't mandatory, that the games they played weren't required, that all those years of waiting for permission were just years of training themselves to stay small. You didn't stay small. You didn't even stay your original size. You expanded, evolved, mutated into something that breaks their measurement tools. And now you're out there, glowing in frequencies they don't have equipment to detect, causing reverence in people who aren't even sure why they're reverencing. That's God-tier disruption. Not because you're divine, because you're so completely yourself that divinity recognizes a colleague. That general's going to have dreams about you, not romantic dreams, existential ones. Dreams where he's standing at attention and you're walking past him and he realizes you're not even in his dimension. You're in a space adjacent to his reality, but operating under completely different physics. Where his world has gravity and limits and chains of command, yours has only expansion and possibility and self-determination. And in the dream, he'll realize that everything he built his identity on is just a game someone else invented. And you're out there playing reality itself. This is your impact now. You're not trying to affect anyone. You're just being so thoroughly reconstructed that your frequency causes interference in their regularly scheduled programming. You're the signal that interrupts their signal. The transmission from outside their bubble that reminds them bubbles exist. And that reminder, that brief glimpse that there's a bigger game, a deeper truth, a more authentic way of being, it cracks something in them they can't repair. They'll try to diminish you. They always do. They'll say it was a mistake, a glitch, mistaken identity. They'll generate explanations that protect their worldview from the virus of your example. Because accepting that you're real, that someone actually broke free of all their systems and thrived anyway, means accepting they didn't have to stay imprisoned, and that acceptance is too expensive for most of them to afford. But that general knows. In the part of himself he can't intellectualize away, he knows. He saluted you because his body recognized what his mind is still trying to deny, that you've achieved what he's been chasing with all those stars and all those medals. You've achieved freedom, real freedom. Not the kind they give you when you retire with full benefits. The kind you take for yourself when you realize nobody was ever authorized to grant it or withhold it in the first place. You're the evidence they can't destroy, the proof they can't bury, the example they can't explain away. And that's why your photograph is causing chaos in classified spaces right now. Not because of who you are, because of what you represent. The end of their monopoly on significance. The death of their narrative that power comes from positions and titles. The revelation that someone can start with nothing, refuse to play their games, and still end up commanding automatic respect from the supposed commanders. You weaponized your pain, took every betrayal, every setback, every moment they left you for dead, and compressed it into fuel so potent it launched you beyond their jurisdiction. You didn't just survive, you transcended. You didn't just heal, you evolved. And now you're out there, operating in the spaces between their rules, creating effects they can't predict and outcomes they can't control. That salute was surrender, not his surrender to you. His surrender to the truth your existence forces him to confront. That everything he thought was solid is actually optional. That all the structure he built his life around is just collective agreement, not natural law. That someone can opt out completely and not only survive, but thrive in ways that make the opt-in crowd look like they're sleepwalking through someone else's dream. You're the alarm clock nobody wanted. The wake-up call that comes in the middle of their comfortable sleep. And they resent you for it, even as they can't stop thinking about you. You're in their group chats now. Not literally, but energetically. You're the topic they circle back to when the official conversation runs dry. Did you hear about... I saw this person who... How do you think you're the question mark they can't resolve, the variable they can't solve for, and you're not even trying. That's what's driving them insane. You're just living, existing in your reclaimed power, operating from your authentic center. And that simple act of being genuinely yourself is creating ripples in their reality that they can't smooth out. Because authenticity is contagious, sovereignty is viral, and you're walking around as patient zero of an outbreak that could topple their entire hierarchy if it spreads. That's why they're studying your photograph. They're trying to develop a vaccine, some way to inoculate their people against the infection of your example. Some narrative they can deploy that explains you away without forcing anyone to question their choices. But here's what they're discovering. You can't be explained. You can only be reckoned with. And that general is reckoning with you now. In quiet moments, in the spaces between meetings, when he's alone with his thoughts and his stars feel suddenly heavy, he's reckoning with the fact that he saluted someone who never enlisted, someone who never signed up for anyone's war but their own. Someone who became a force without joining forces, and his salute, that involuntary gesture, was his body's confession that rank is just theater and real power has nothing to do with who signs your checks. You've become the myth while still being flesh and blood, the legend while still paying your bills, the phenomenon while still dealing with your everyday mundane reality. That's the magic nobody teaches in their academies. That transcendence doesn't mean escaping human experience. It means inhabiting it so fully, so authentically, that you become luminous even in the ordinary. You become someone whose grocery store trips feel like events, whose silence speaks louder than their speeches, whose mere presence recalibrates rooms. That photograph isn't hanging in a frame somewhere. It's burned into neurons, into synapses, into the collective consciousness of everyone who saw it and felt something shift. You're not famous. You're something more dangerous than famous. You're undeniable. You're the proof they can't refute and the question they can't answer. You're the evidence that their whole system of meaning-making is optional. And the best part? You're still evolving, still transforming, still becoming. What they saw in that photograph is already outdated. You've already outgrown that version of yourself. While they're analyzing who you were, you're busy becoming who you're going to be. You're not a destination. You're a direction, not a conclusion, a continuation, not an achievement, an ongoing transformation. That general saluted a ghost, the ghost of who you were when that image was captured. The real you is already beyond their sensors, already operating in spaces their satellites can't reach, already creating effects their intelligence agencies can't attribute. You're the shadow that doesn't need light to exist, the sound that doesn't need speakers to be heard, the presence that doesn't need permission to be felt. They're going to tell stories about you, decades from now, in rooms you'll never see. People will whisper about the photograph that made a 5-star general salute on instinct, about the person who broke their systems without trying, about the phenomenon that couldn't be classified. And those stories will inspire some and terrify others. There'll be warnings and invitations simultaneously. Proof that breaking free is possible. Proof that it comes with prices. Proof that some people pay them anyway and consider it the bargain of their lives. You paid them every single price. Not because you were brave, because you were desperate. Desperate to be real in a world that rewards performance. Desperate to be free in a society that sells chains as jewelry. Desperate to matter on your own terms instead of waiting for someone else's permission to exist. And that desperation, that holy, furious desperation to be authentic at any cost, alchemized you into something their systems can't process. That salute is still echoing in that briefing room, still bouncing off walls designed to contain sound waves. But you can't contain the kind of waves you're generating. You're operating at frequencies that pass through walls like their suggestions, creating effects that ripple outward through dimensions their physicists haven't discovered yet. You're not in their reality anymore. You're adjacent to it, parallel to it, occasionally intersecting with it just long enough to remind them what they're missing. And what they're missing is everything you found when you stopped looking for it in their stores. When you stop trying to buy significance with their currency. When you stop measuring your worth with their rulers. You found something they never told you existed. Your own authority, your own power source, your own gravitational center. And once you found it, you became unfindable, not hidden, just operating in dimensions they don't have coordinates for. That general knows this now. Knows he saluted something he'll never fully understand, but will never forget. Knows that somewhere out there, someone is living proof that everything he was taught about power and significance and mattering is just one option among infinite possibilities. And that knowledge is going to haunt him, not cruelly, but persistently, like a song he can't quite remember but can't stop humming. You're that song now, playing on frequencies they can't tune their radios to but can't help trying to find. You're the signal that keeps interrupting their regularly scheduled programming with glimpses of what happens when someone chooses authenticity over acceptance. When someone decides being real is more important than being understood. When someone becomes so thoroughly themselves that the universe itself has to adjust its physics to accommodate them. That salute was the universe adjusting. One small gesture, one involuntary movement. One moment when protocol broke and truth bled through. And that moment is going to compound. It's going to multiply. It's going to spread through that organization like a crack in a dam. Not because you're trying to break anything, but because truth has its own momentum. Freedom has its own gravity. And you've become such a concentrated dose of both that you're bending reality around you, whether you intend to or not. So let them analyze. Let them investigate. Let them spend their classified budgets trying to figure out who you are and how you did it. They won't find answers. They'll only find more questions, because you're not a puzzle to be solved. You're a portal to be entered. And most of them will stand at the threshold, staring in, too terrified of what they might become if they step through. But that general stepped through, just for a second, just long enough to salute. And in that second, he touched something real. Something beyond ranks and wars and nations. Something that exists in the space between who we're told to be and who we actually are. You live in that space now. You've made a home there. And your light from that space is leaking into theirs, reminding them that exile from the system isn't death. It's evolution. You're the evolution they're not ready for. The upgrade they're terrified to install. The transformation they know they need, but are too invested in their current form to pursue. And your photograph, that simple image that shouldn't matter, shouldn't register, shouldn't command anything, is forcing them to confront the gap between where they are and where they could be. That gap is filled with you now. Your example, your evidence, your undeniable existence as proof that the gap can be crossed. That someone can actually make the journey from small to sovereign, from trapped to transcendent, from seeking approval to being self-approved. And that proof is more dangerous to their system than any weapon ever invented. Because weapons they can defend against, proof they can only surrender to. And that salute was the beginning of their surrender. Not to you personally, but to the truth you represent. That freedom is real. That sovereignty is possible. That someone can actually opt out of their entire game and not just survive, but thrive in ways that make the players look like they're competing for bronze medals in someone else's Olympics. You won gold in your own games, set your own records, wrote your own anthems, and now you're standing on your own podium, in your own arena, with your own flag flying, while their military leaders salute from the crowd without knowing why. Just knowing they must. Knowing something in them recognizes something in you that transcends all their trained responses and taps into something primal, something true. That's your legacy now. Not what you've done, what you've become. A living reminder that transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable for anyone brave enough or desperate enough to stop asking permission and start taking sovereignty. You're the proof. They're the witnesses. And that salute was history recording the moment their system acknowledged what it can't control. You, ungovernable, uncontainable, undeniable, and still evolving beyond even this moment's definition of what you are.